All right, welcome back to the CTO Dose. My name is Joep Piscar. Welcome to VMworld 2019. I'm glad to be sitting down right now. I've been walking the shop floor, going to sessions, meeting up with people. So yeah, it's good to be back in this chair again. I'm joined by Thomas Berger. He is of Citrix, and we're going to talk a little bit about Citrix because it's been a while since I last talked about it. And so let's dive in. Citrix, it's the company that does VDI, right?
Pretty much, yeah. No, we do a lot more nowadays. So VDI is probably what we're known for a long time, virtual apps and desktops in general. But I think we have evolved quite a bit over the last couple of years. So,
right.
I think the digital workspace evolved in itself as well. Users no longer just use Windows applications or Linux applications. They need mobile apps, they need web apps, SaaS apps, and everything in between. Linux comes up more and more with customers which try to get away from Microsoft every now and then. And so obviously we provide them all. But in our even beyond that, we evolve quite a bit. Obviously now we bring the content. You're not opening Word because it's a beautiful app. You open it up because you want to write a letter, and as you roam between devices and locations, you want to make sure that that letter follows with you. So we blend in the content as well.
Right.
But this is what we call organizing work, essentially. And beyond that, we go into guide work. That means we look into the backend applications. We see what are the tasks, what are the outstanding notifications for the user. We pull them and show them in a personalized feed for the user. So essentially, you get a to-do list from us. So you get like your front end where you can launch all these things, the content and the apps, but you get your to-do list as well. And
so
then,
hold on, how does this work? So there's backend systems like I use Workday for HR, or I use some system to get me to approve a visit to a conference.
Yeah.
And you surface that up into your own. How does that work?
That's very true. That's very true. So what we have is we have connectors to those systems of record, what we call them. This can be Salesforce, this can be SAP, this can be Workday. Or any of those commonly used SaaS applications and on-prem applications as well. And essentially those connectors they, as the name suggests, connect to those backend systems and understand what is going on there. They figure out what is relevant, what are the data points for this user. They can see everything from the notifications to what data changes. And then surface it back to the user either as a notification or an actionable insight. So Tableau might have a new cool business statistic for you, and it shows it through our workspace, which is the point of consumption, so to say. So that's the guide work, if you like. And then we also allow users to access specific functions, atomic functions, you could almost say, with an application. So you're not going into, like you said, like request approval for a trip to a conference. So you're not going into your travel system, whatever that might be, and then 3 clicks down, and then you have some form you have to fill, but you get a button like request travel, and then you see that form straight away. You fill in the necessary details, you click a button, and then done. You're not switching between applications. You don't have this context switching. You have to go through, but it's like very quickly done.
It kind of reminds me of the old intranet, right? I used to have an intranet where I had like a button, go to my travel expenses application, go to my HR application. This kind of sounds similar.
It sounds similar. Actually, that's where some customers actually could confuse as well. And I think the biggest difference with those intranet solutions, even nowadays, is they, in most cases, they just provide links, right? You have your website, you click a button, and it just opens up another website, which then happens to be SAP, for example. So obviously, we can do that too, but we can much deeper integrate with those notifications and micro apps as well. But those intranets also, in most cases, or I would say actually in all cases, they only talk about web applications. So if your line of business applications doesn't happen to be a website, then you're out of luck. So then you back to what you had in the past as well.
Right, because those systems can be, old.
They can be old. They can be old, or sometimes you don't really have a direct path to them. So, or you have to first establish any kind of VPN connectivity to your on-prem. So there's a lot of ifs and thens in between. I'm sure you can make a lot of things work, even with internet portals, but they're not designed to do that, right? Intranet portals are like more for the internal communications. Look at that, this is the new menu in our canteen, or look at that, we have a new CEO and here's his welcome message, and maybe a bit of like social interaction, likes and comments and internal knowledge sharing, but they're not so much about like organizing work in the sense of like providing all the resources and tools you need to get your work done. And they are, frankly, in most cases not really personalized. It's like one portal for everyone, maybe for a team, but not so down to this specific individual, like what we're doing.
And so what's the why should I get this? I mean, as a user, I get it. Getting all my information in an easy format to consume, very personalized. That I get that. But what's the business case behind it? Why do companies want to do this?
Yeah, I think there's two big things. One is user experience. Experience is productivity and engagement combined together. So one is you get your work done faster, easier. Just one reason for that is you get access to the applications and files in a much easier way, or the information in general. Also, you don't switch between things, and that is statistics say when you do a context switch from doing one thing to another and then going back to, let's say, writing a letter, that might take up to 20 minutes to be back in the flow to write that thing, and that's lost productivity. So if you just get a snippet of that individual, like request PTO thing, you get it done like in a few seconds. You don't have to think about where do I need to go in my line of business system of record, but just click the button. Then this context switches goes away or is significantly reduced. So the productivity goes up. User experience is also up in a sense. It's easier, it's nicer for user to work with. And everyone is competing for workforce nowadays. It's hard to find. Talent is really hard to find. So if you give them like a modern experience and not this old style, traditional stuff of providing access to work.
Right. Yeah. So in terms of lack of productivity, I use tools like Slack. I use Microsoft Teams, and they are kind of my one-stop shop for a lot of things. Right. I get notifications within Slack, not just from other users, but from applications that I use as well. But that's kind of like a rainstorm coming down the whole time. There's not a lot of logic in there. I'm curious how that matches up with Citrix solution.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, that's the thing. Is like there from the marketing or the very first initial impression you get from Slack and Teams, and there's Mattermost and many other workstream collaboration solutions out there. They all promise to be, or they want to be that one-stop shop, as you just mentioned, for getting work done. It's whatever you can do it in Slack. Is that famous claim they have, and it is true if you define work as a communication thing. They are very good to enable communication between people, to reduce friction for communication, to tear down barriers between teams and so on. That's what they're built for. This is a team communication and collaboration tool, and they increase the efficiency and productivity of teams by doing so. And they also give me notifications, more like for a team in general, like a certain build is complete, and now team can react based on that. But it's because of all this notification and collaboration goes on in that solution, it's also a very noisy place. And when you want to get work done, you usually go to a quiet space. You want to have something where you can focus. You get your thing, your to-do task list, and you go through it one by one and get things done. As a matter of fact, we use Slack at Citrix as well, and we went into the statistics of the platform, and every given day we send about 150,000 messages on Slack platform. Yeah. So this is not really a thing where I get my work done. It's good for figuring out what the context of my work is, but Citrix Workspace is then where I get the work done. So, and essentially those two solutions sit next to each other. They're not replacing. We're actually integrating also into Slack and Teams, so we can make applications and content available in Slack. We are going to provide a virtual assistant into Teams and Slack to allow Slack or Teams-based users ask questions which we then figure out on the backend system. So you ask in Slack, how much PTO do I have? Then it talks to us. We talk to the system of record, and then it goes back. So there is an integration there, and it's side by side. The overlap or the compete, if you like, happens more on the marketing side, and I think we have to figure that out.
Yeah. So you mentioned the chatbot.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't just work within Teams or Slack, I'm presuming.
No.
I'm kind of curious how that works in a daily workflow of a user.
So you're right. It's just on Slack or Teams. It's also Workspace. We have an application for that where that virtual assistant lives, and a virtual assistant, it differentiates from other virtual assistants like in Slack and Teams. They are all about bots, right? You have a whole bot app store, bot store, if that is a word, and And those bots are in most cases are single tasks. So one bot can do one thing really well. The challenge is this bot in many cases is written by one team, which has a very specific way of doing natural language understanding. And the other bot does it differently. So the users really have to figure out what bot do I use and how. We create one bot which does a lot of tasks on the backend. So that's kind of how the bots differentiate. And our bot can live in Teams, and it can live in Workspace. But it does the same thing on both sides. And essentially, coming back to your question, as a user, I can just ask it things like how much PTO do I have left, and it will go talk to Workday and figure that out and show me a list, and then maybe ask you, do you want to request some? And then you can do it as well. So it gives you access to information as well as allows you to do some actions and activities.
Kind of sounds like a low-code or no-code solution, kind of making sure that you have the specific information on the right time and the right context available to you.
Yeah, that is very true. And the low-code, no-code is a good point to talk about. That is like what we provide out of the box with Workspace. There is 15, 20 connectors to backend systems and about 100, 150 micro applications we deliver. But these are really just starting points. And customers get, as you say, a low-code, no-code studio where they can tune everything. They can say, well, requesting a ticket is nice, it's a good starting point, but I would like to alert my users if a certain number of tickets is if a certain threshold, we go beyond that, or if a certain probability of a deal is raising a certain point, we want to create a notification around that, and they can do so. So all they need to do is they need to understand the business requirement for it, and what are the data points available in the line of business application and system of record, and then we allow you to create micro applications or notifications, insights on top of that. So essentially, sky's the limit. Yeah. If you like.
So one thing I haven't heard yet, and there's probably a story now. This all gathers all of the business logic, the data, all of the workflows. This is potentially very sensitive information. So how do you protect against data leaking out of a system like that? How do you protect it on a device that's portable, mobile, and easy to steal? Yeah. What's the security play?
So we have a variety of tools, and essentially what we do with Workspace, I mean, we basically just talked about the work in terms of applications and information, but Workspace for us can also be a platform. We build a digital workspace, and that has essentially an intrinsic security model in there. So this can range from managing the device, making sure it's encrypted, and if it's not, then essentially prevent access to applications. We have security tools or security functionality which can put watermark on data or only allow you a certain level of access to it. You can only read it but not print it. So there's a variety of that. What is also essentially surrounding all of what we do is an analytics. It's called Citrix Analytics, and what it does, it understands your behavior as a user. It figures out where you're connecting from, what devices are you using, how often do you connect, what kind of content do you share or content do you consume, what websites do you access in the internet. For example, there's a variety of data points which goes in, and it creates based on that a specific risk score for you. And then if that deviates too much, or if you, let's say, you're showing risky behavior, like browsing websites which have a very, very bad repetition, then the risk score increases, and as it goes above a certain threshold, we can take action. So we can say we want to make sure that user is really the one who claims it is to be, then we ask for second factor authentication, or we say now it goes beyond what we think is good, and we block access or just prevent you from accessing very sensitive applications. There's a variety of things we can do. The beauty is, and I think actually that sets us apart from most of the companies out there, is we have the ability to understand that behavior across the whole workspace. It's not just like how the device functions, like security posture of the device. It's important, we can do that too, but it's just one data point. It's also important what you do in the internet or how you share content, who consumes what, and so on.
Yeah, that kind of comes back to, it's more than just the applications, it's more than just data. It's, how you use it too.
Yeah, very true.
Right, so if people want to know more about this solution, what should they Google? Should they look you up on Twitter or LinkedIn?
Oh, sure, they can do that. But I think the easiest way is to go to citrix.com. There is the whole website is around organizing, guiding, and automating work. And I think this gets a very good starting point of what we do. do nowadays. And then obviously if they're looking for the good old Citrix virtual apps and desktop solution, they will find it there. But it will show how this is embedded. This is a pillar, an important pillar, but just one pillar of that digital workspace solution we provide nowadays, and we are pretty excited about it. Honestly.
That sounds good. All right. So that's it for us here at the CTO Dose. We're going to go back to VMworld for a little bit now. Of course, we'll be back later with more interviews. So until then, goodbye.